my God, Becky, look at her butt.
Welcome to the Stop Chasing Skinny radio program. I'm Stephanie Keenan, and every Tuesday night from 9 to 10 p.m. on KineticHiFi.com, you can catch our show. We talk about everything that is related to health, wellness, mind, body, spirit, and you get to learn a little bit more about my fitness journey and some of the things that have helped me along the way. So tonight I wanted to bring on Marshall Crown. Marshall and I met through my boyfriend. He introduced me to Marshall. Marshall is a performance-based coach. So lately I've been doing a lot of Spartan races, and so I'm kind of getting back into my little cardio mode a little bit, but it takes a lot of strength to do these too. So it's not the same cardio that I was doing before when I was doing triathlons, duathlons, and running, although those have really helped me out in this. So I have invited Marshall to talk about his coaching style, some of the different tips, and this is perfect timing because I'm getting ready to do a Spartan Beast, and if you're not familiar with that, it's a 12 plus mile race, so that's 12 plus, and the last one my boyfriend did, it ended up being like 17 miles on the GPS, so this is absolute perfect timing. Marshall has some clients that he trains currently, and they really are beasts. So welcome, Marshall, and could you tell us a little bit more about your background?
Yeah, Stephanie, I appreciate you having me on. Grew up a competitive athlete. Started off, I played baseball all the way into college. That was where I got my main kind of drive and background. I started off, that's where I grew into strength training as well. I was always the kid that was too small and was told you're never going to be able to do anything. So I kind of had to get at it early to get strong enough and fast enough to be able to kind of compete and hold my own. Went into college, ended up going into exercise physiology is what I started off with. Ended up having a career-ending injury when I was playing baseball. So I left my first school and transferred down to South Carolina, and finished up in Clemson University. I actually finished up in a different biology program. They didn't have kinesiology at the time. And so while I was there, I had some experience with some other guys that had trained me. I had some experience going out to University of Minnesota and spent a couple weeks out there with a guy that I had trained with in high school. He had an internship under Cal Dietz, great strength coach, and was able to kind of hang around and just be a gym rat out there for a couple weeks, and picked up a lot of knowledge and came back, and it was always just a huge passion of mine. And I was working with guys and friends of mine in school, and everybody was doing the back and buys three sets of 10 thing, and I had all these kind of crazy ideas in Russian literature that I was reading, and they were like, "Man, I really want to do what you're doing, and you seem to be getting strong." And so I started training them. In about 2008, I was just looking for a way to kind of get back and be competitive, to kind of find a way to do that. And like most people around that time, I found CrossFit was a way for me to, kind of blend my passion for Olympic weightlifting and strength training and have a way to compete at the same time. So did that, and then started competing, in Olympic weightlifting as well. And past 2 years, I was decided I'm going to just go full time into coaching. Had a passion for. I was in corporate America, and I was like, "This is just terrible."
We share that.
Yeah, I was getting burnt out hard, and I hadn't been in it all that long. And I was coaching. I would go in and open the gym up in the morning and coach like 5 to 7 in the morning, and go to work, and then get off and coach like 5 to 9 in the evening. And I was just getting burnt out, and I was like, I'm working this job I hate to be able to do what I really love to do and coach. And I said, I think we're just going to make a change. And so I decided to leave that job. I took a 70% pay cut and jumped out on faith and said, this is what my passion is. I know that my passion will take me where I want to go, where I really want to be. And so I was fortunate enough to take on some really awesome clients right away. And I started my business, which is Defiant Strength and Conditioning. So I have had an entire team of OCR racers, obstacle course racers. They all competed in Spartan.
Awesome.
They actually finished Last year they finished the Spartan Sprint. They've podied them on that one.
Awesome.
And several regional races that they've won and finished like at least second and third on. So great athletes. I take no credit for what they've actually done out there racing. I've just tried to help them the best I can to kind of get there. So, and with you getting into that now, I think that was kind of a good kind of how we were able to kind of connect on this. So.
Oh, I think, it's so funny. There are no coincidences, and the timing is absolutely perfect. I started doing the Spartan races just because my boyfriend got invited by a friend to do a sprint, which is the 5+ miles. And he loved it, and he said, let's do this. So then I signed up with him, and then I met you at the same time. So that it's really, really perfect. So it's perfect timing. It's why I wanted to bring you on tonight, because the training that I normally do, so my background, I did triathlons and duathlons and a lot of running, so I was just super cardio. I didn't have much cross training going on. I mean, I swam in high school, and I ran cross country, and I did track and field, so I guess that's somewhat cross training, but I was super into cardio. And then from there, I went into fitness competitions, specifically physique, or figure, which is, for anybody who's not familiar, it's just kind of like bodybuilding, just not quite as big, not quite as lean, but still, your cardio kind of goes away, especially that running piece of it.
Oh, yeah.
And you're really focused on building a ton of muscle, which is for appearance, and ultimately, whenever you start doing some more obstacle course races or something like that, that's actually kind of dead weight that you're kind of carrying around if it's not strong muscle. So I've really shifted gears again, going to the obstacle course races. So this is really perfect. And we are going to just take a really quick break here, and then we're going to get into some of the specifics on the different training styles that somebody who wants to do an obstacle course race really needs to focus on. And these aren't common things that you would think of probably. Like, it's not like, oh, let's just go run a bunch of miles. So we'll be right back.
1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2 mic check 1 2 1 2.
And welcome back to the Stop Chasing Skinny radio program. Tonight we're meeting with Marshall Crown, and he is a strength and conditioning coach. And this is perfect timing because I just started doing some Spartan races, and some people have been following me on social media watching those. And I've had some clients who have started doing some mud runs, Spartan races. It's really helped to reconnect back with the running side of me because, I guess once a runner, always a runner. So you can't just go run a bunch of miles, though, and expect to get really good results. So I'm going to ask Marshall to share some of his tips, something that's a little different, something that somebody would, maybe if you're into general fitness, maybe some things that you would want to start considering for doing an obstacle course race. So getting started.
Okay, so we want to start with just somebody that wants to do it, recreationally.
Recreationally,
okay.
Yeah.
I would highly recommend that you don't bite off the Spartan Beast to be your first recreational race. I would suggest you stay something more in the 5K range, and and really just be able to enjoy it. Because they are pretty physically demanding, but they're a lot of fun. I mean, I think it's better than just running on the road for 3 miles. I mean, that gets old and boring after a while, and I try not to run. I run about 1 mile more than I'm ever chased in any given week. So,
right.
And that's due to my sport, but what I would tell people to do is really start with is you do need to have a requisite amount of strength, just for life in general. But you need a requisite amount of strength to be able to perform certain tasks that you're going to be given in a race like that. When you just run down the road, you can get away with just kind of being not very strong. And you can look at body composition types for people that are long distance runners, and most of them can't even perform a basic air squat. I mean, their hips are so tight, their ankles are super tight. Yeah,
misalignments and what kind of having some.
You'll see a lot of hip misalignment. They'll end up actually developing a little bit where if they run on the road constantly, and they're running miles on the road regularly, you'll see a little bit of how much their hips will actually rotate. And their posture will be a little bit misaligned, only because the road also slants. I mean, like that's the way water gets off the road. So their left leg will typically end up having to shorten a little bit for that stride length. So
that's interesting.
So when you're running off-road races, you really don't have that concern because the terrain is changing all the time. So you don't end up with an imbalance like that.
Yeah.
For most of the tasks that you'll be given, you'll have obstacles that you'll come up to, and you're going to need a fair amount of upper body strength. You're going to need a fair amount of lower body strength, and you're just going to need to have a pretty good attitude about everything. It's like that's
huge.
the biggest thing. You got to realize that if you're doing this recreationally, you're doing this for fun. So you should be having fun. So and if you're not having fun, then you need to check what you're doing, and maybe come up with a different hobby. So
that is such a good point. I have seen people get really flustered, and yeah, it is for fun.
Yeah, and I tell people I coach all the time, the easiest way to PR on something is do something you've never done before.
That's
so true. I mean, so
Yeah.
if you've never climbed a rope before, or you've never climbed a cargo net before, why would you be expecting to be awesome at it?
Yeah.
Go up there and be like, oh, I fell off the thing, and laugh about it, because, I mean, I'm sure somebody else laughed at you doing it, so, don't take yourself so seriously when you're trying to do this recreationally.
Yeah.
But, I would be getting into doing a lot of body weight work.
Okay.
And when you're doing it recreationally, there's no reason to be getting into really heavy strength, programming for that.
Okay.
Or really even trying to climatize your body, either hot or cold, depending on the time of year of the race. You should just be doing, burpees, push-ups, sit-ups, air squats,
So these are the
walking
basics.
lunges. Yeah, just do basic, all-around general, body weight work.
Okay.
And you can get really gnarly strong just doing body weight stuff. I mean, look at anybody in prison. I mean, they don't have a lot of weights, and they're gnarly strong because all they do is push-ups and pull-ups all day long.
Yeah.
I mean, you can get strong, and that's what you're going to need to be, to do these things.
Oh, that's such great information, because I know I personally, when I get ready to do something, I'll read everything about it. I read the blogs, because I'm trying to educate myself. And
that's smart, by doing that. I mean,
but it also I love that you just got back to the basics, because I feel like sometimes I used to see it all the time with the fitness competitors. They would get all bogged down in all of the details, and it's hard when you're looking from the outside and you're looking at it brand new. You don't really it's all shiny to you, right? And so that's really great that you just broke down what the main pieces are for getting started in it. So for any of the listeners who have been doing, for me, for example, I mean, I jumped back into doing Spartan races, and I actually did the Super, which is 8+ miles, but I did it in Virginia at Wintergreen, which is a ski resort. And
a lot of hills.
It was huge. And I mean, leading up to this, I qualified for the 2003 Duathlon World Championships on the Mount Rainier course out in Seattle. And so I would have to say that was probably the hardest thing that I had done up until that point.
Yeah.
And then we did that Spartan race, which was the Super on ski resort. My body was failing by the end. It was the hardest thing I had ever done. But I had some more background, so I could kind of jump into that. So for somebody else, maybe kind of like me, who has a background in something that was endurance based, who has been strength training for a while, any of my clients or my fans who do my high intensity interval training workouts on a regular basis, what would you say for that kind of competitive athlete? And then we'll move into the really elite athletes that you coach and your coaching style for that.
Yeah, so when you're going into a much more competitive base, you need to really be kind of considering what your strength battery is in this. Now you can be an endurance athlete, and that actually brings a lot of qualities to the table. But if you're strictly just an endurance athlete, you're a marathon runner, or you may, I even see a lot of triathletes that exhibit a lot of weaknesses. They're great in their three domains, but they lack a lot of strength.
And everything's moving in the forward direction in all three of those sports, so you don't have much lateral stuff.
Don't have much lateral stuff. You're not really getting away from, you're not really, hammering away much at what you can do. I see those guys like, they're great, but their bodies will break down.
Okay.
They have, huge physical limitations because they just don't have the strength. And when they start to break down and they start getting catatonic, or catabolic rather, their muscle is breaking down. Well, they don't have enough muscle for it to really break down over that much time.
Okay.
And so they can get away from it and get away with it in their domains when, and doing a triathlon. But when you're adding in so much extra physical stress, like in an obstacle course race, there's a lot of factors in there. So, you're going to get beat, bruises and scrapes and stuff like that. That's just added stress to the body that, you got to kind of consider. So you really need to start implementing a good strength program. And even coming from a beginner standpoint or even an intermediate standpoint, just basic linear progression is fine. Squat, deadlift, press, you could, any variation of pressing, either bench pressing or push pressing, and my more elite people, I'll have actually doing more power, more explosive lifts too. But, you getting into those basic things, set it up, go 5 by 5 and add 10 pounds every week.
Okay. Could you explain that just a little bit? Because I think we have a lot of people who are listening who may not understand the 5 by 5. So just explain a little more.
Yeah, definitely. So if we'll take back squatting, for example. And a 5 by 5 would be 5 sets of 5 repetitions.
Okay. And this is building strength.
And it's building strength, yeah. I want to stay in a smaller rep range, so less repetitions, kind of a medium set range, so 3 to 5 to maybe probably no more than 5, maybe 6. But adding some weight, and a lot of people think, oh man, I'm gonna get bulky, I'm gonna get huge. When you're doing heavy weight at low repetitions for a limited number of sets, you're not going to get bulky. You're going to get strong. Okay. Just like if you added hypertrophy work of lots of repetitions but less sets, you're also going to get lean and strong. Yeah. The misconception is everybody's going to look like Arnold from his heydays back in when he was winning Mr. Olympia all the time. And
for any women who are worried about that, I have tried so hard for years, and my body naturally puts muscle on, and I'm only as big as I am. So.
Yeah, and people will it takes a long time for people to get like that, and they have dedication like a none other. They're not going in there and working out 3 hours a week, just trying to get general physically strong. I have some women that I've trained, and I tell them can you pick up a 50-pound suitcase? Mm-hmm. That's a everyday thing. You're going to go to the airport at some point. Can you pick up your suitcase and put it on the scale? Yeah. If you can't, you're packing too much. So back it off. But that's an easy thing. Can you pick up 50 pounds? Because that's an everyday object you may have to do. And most of them are like, no, I can't. Wow. And I'm like, and so if you're not strong enough to do that, and that's just something you're gonna have to do during your day, or if you have a huge dog and you buy a big bag of dog food, and you can't pick up a bag of dog food, what are you gonna do? Just lift weights, get a little strong. It's not gonna make you big and bulky. Quite the opposite. So.
Cool. So doing some strength.
Adding some strength work in there, and still getting mileage in. You're still running a race, and you're still running mileage. And so if you're looking at something more intermediate, where you're running an 8-mile race, you're still going to have to get that volume in. Yeah. And I tend to like to bring people along slowly into that, because I'll work them into either interval work where they may do 1-mile repeats. Okay. Because most of the races that you're going to do, you're not going to just run 8 miles. You have obstacles in between. Yeah. And a lot of times they're going to be full of people waiting to do the obstacle. So you're not running continuously. What you have to be really good at is running from obstacle to obstacle. So, you need the endurance to last for a long time, but you need to be powerful and have a lot of strength to get you from point A to point B quickly, and then do an activity, and then go from point A to point B again quickly. And so we do a lot of mile repeat work.
Okay.
We do a lot of, I'll add carry work in on that too. Like maybe
that's huge. I'm sore right now from carrying a 100-pound dummy around the gym the other day.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, it makes you like there's nothing better for your core.
There is nothing better for your core, and there's no better. I mean, you can't train for that. I mean, we bought some buckets and some rocks. And it was so cute. He sent me a picture, and he sent 2 pictures of buckets, or a picture of buckets and some rocks, and literally just walking up and down the street carrying that. Something else that I found, and I don't know if you have some tips for this, but my grip strength gives out a lot. It gives out on just regular general weightlifting, and then it gives out on something like a Spartan race. So
and that's a huge limiter for just about anybody.
Okay.
I mean, so even athletes that I don't have that are doing obstacle course racing, just some of my CrossFit athletes that I have, or my competitive guys for that. We do a lot of kind of obscure strength, like grip work, because the first thing that's going to fail is their grip. And if they can hang on to a bar longer, or you can hang on to a rope longer, or you can hang on to a bucket full of rocks longer, you're going to be able to stay one step ahead of the next person. So it's little things that tend to get overlooked.
Yeah.
That that we do really well at Defiance. We try to break everything down by what's going to fail first, and we really try to keep that pretty strong.
Yeah.
A motor on a car typically doesn't go like right when you drive it off the lot, but the little tiny bearing in your wheel will end up going before all of that and cost you a ton of money and leave you stranded on the side of the road. It's like, take care of the little things and everything else will be fine, And so, we program very heavily for those things, doing a lot of grip strength work, doing a lot of stuff that, we'll add in a lot of like jumping rope and stuff just to keep, like the plantar work in your foot very strong.
That's huge because you're up and down those mountains.
Exactly. Up and down hills. And especially if you come from a coastal area like we're in right now, you're not necessarily used to that. So, driving with your feet that way, it's a whole different, stress on that body that's not used to it. So we want to keep everything strong so that, the little parts aren't going to wear out during the middle of the race.
That's awesome. Well, thank you. Yeah. Thanks. We're going to take just one really quick break. We're going to come back, and I want to talk about more elite athletes and what the training looks like for them, because I feel like a lot of people, we all do it. We look at the elite athlete, and they're like, I wonder what that takes. So we're going to talk about that in a second.
Dangerous and ambitious, while scheming on getting riches and spitting at tricks, because I'm addicted to bring bitches. MCs act like they don't know.
Welcome back to the Stop Chasing Skinny radio program. Tonight we're talking to Marshall Crown. He is a coach with Defiance. He actually owns Defiance. He is a strength and conditioning coach. And so we are talking about some different, specifically obstacle course races. I have a special love for this because I started doing the Spartan races. I've done Tough Mudders before. I've done other mud runs. The Spartan, I feel like, that's really my favorite. I feel like the Tough Mudder was good. It was about 12 miles long, but a lot of time waiting for the obstacles, and I didn't feel like the obstacles challenged me quite as much as the Spartan race. I mean, like jumping off of a 2-story platform, that's kind of scary, or going underwater in an ice bath, that's kind of challenging a little bit, but it doesn't take a lot of skill to do that. So you do face some fears, which is really cool, but I feel like the Spartan race is great because you literally carry buckets of rocks up and down things like ski slopes. It was the hardest thing I'd ever done. And so I'm getting ready to do a 12-plus mile race coming up in a few weeks. And actually, by the time this airs, it will be about the same week as the competition. So I wanted Marshall to share some more tips about how to train for a Spartan race or any other kind of obstacle course race, whether you're a beginner or you're intermediate. And now we're going to talk about some expert stuff. And then I want him to share some of the other cool things that he coaches for, because we were talking before the show and he said something about strong women, which sounds awesome. So experts, if you were an expert, if when you coach expert level competitors,
the elite guys, yep. Biggest thing that's going to separate an elite level from anybody else is pain tolerance. That's it.
Okay.
That's the number one thing.
And I love that first time we talked, and you're like, "Oh, you like those middle distance triathlons, duathlons? You really like to be in the hurt locker, don't you?" And I guess I kind of do.
Yeah, and that's what's really good having a background in endurance is endurance athletes having a capacity to stay in the pain cave for a very long time, and I think any elite level athlete, to be great, and greatness comes from dealing with a lot of pain. It really does. I tell my athletes that constantly. Everybody wants that. Everybody wants the cool shininess of being something, that everybody else looks up to. They don't realize how much work that these people put in, though, to do that. And, to be an elite level, racer, especially at this, your training takes on a completely different style. And, we do a lot of strength work heavily. And the guys that I have doing elite level OCR races, we incorporate. I'm a big fan of Olympic lifting. I think just being explosive in general is the best way to go about those things. But they train 4 days a week. Just because their training sessions are pretty long and pretty brutal, and I want to give their bodies time to heal. But we go through they'll do a dedicated strength session, and then after that they're doing more conditioning work, adding in runs, adding in carries, adding in a lot of jumping, a lot of body weight work. Okay. I'll add in a lot of like buddy carries and stuff like that. I will increase their training to the point where I'm really trying to make them want to quit. Okay. Like from a coach's standpoint, now this is different than if you were just doing this on your own, like trying to coach yourself. But from what I'm looking to do is I'm actually trying to break that person and see at what point that they're willing to give up. And then we kind of work backwards from that. I honestly have never had anybody quit, and I attribute that to the athletes that I have, more so than my programming. Yeah. It's really just the athletes that I have. Now, one of the things that we do at Defiance is I always say that we train so imperfectly that I want people to get perfectly trained. It's just I picked that up from somebody else too. I'm not coining that phrase, but I do believe that we do some stuff that that other people aren't doing, which gives our athletes advantages. The Vermont race was very cold. Oh, it was wet. A lot of people that traveled from across the country did not get ready for that the way that I had certain people get ready for it. I had, for rope climbs, we soaked ropes in water so the ropes would be already wet, and then I would have them soak their hands in water, in ice water, for up to 5 minutes, and then they'd have to do multiple repeated rope climbs, legless, with just their hands. Wow. I just learned how to do it the regular way. Yeah. I can't imagine with no feet. And no feet, and basically no hands, because their hands are just frozen at that point, and the rope's cold. Everything starts getting cold. And it's to acclimate their body. It's not to torture them by any means, because that course will torture you if you didn't torture yourself, right? Yeah, but when your body feels that and goes into shock, it's like, oh man, like I don't want to do this. Like I'm gonna die. I'm cold. I'm getting hypothermic. Yeah. If you've already put your body into that situation, mentally you are going to be at such a higher level than someone else. Then by doing that, you're going to be able to handle that. Your body's not going to fall into that stress load, and it's going to say, hey, I've been here before. We're good. I can survive this. And automatically you're going to calm down. And if you can stay calm, you're going to be much better off. The other thing that I tell my athletes to do is, the more it sucks, smile, because you were just going to crush the soul of somebody else that's competing against you. And these are for elite level people. And I'm not talking.
No, even I would say the level that we compete, which I would say we were intermediate. I mean, I was top. What if you did the numbers? I was 17th percentile in my age group, which was pretty cool.
That's good. That's very good.
But our whole goal for the whole entire thing was we don't quit. That was it. I mean, we hiked most of the course. I mean, it's a ski slope, so you can imagine the how steep it was. But it was interesting because we were about halfway through and we were walking up. They called it the death march, and it was literally just straight up, and it was all foggy and you couldn't see where the end was. You couldn't see it all, and it was littered with bodies. There were and I mean, these were like some 25-year-old like super ripped dudes that I was like, oh my gosh, these guys are like in tears here. And so you're right, so it's that mental thing.
And especially when you're being competitive in this and you're trying to win and you're trying to finish on the podium, and this is true for any of my athletes that are individual athletes. Like when you're going up and competing against someone else, and they're looking to you to see when you're trying to break, and if you're starting to wear down, because everybody is. But on the outside, if it doesn't look like that, you're going to just start crushing people, because they're going to sit there and be like, this guy's won't stop. What? I'm dying over here and he's smiling. Immediately you're in his head. Yeah. And you've gained an advantage. They're going to slow down. Point. And so we do a lot of mental preparation. We do a lot of mental work that way. Because I really believe that the mental side of the thing is one side that most strength coaches, especially independent strength coaches, lack. They don't attack that enough. I want my people to be so mentally strong that they won't quit. There's nothing that they don't believe that they can't do. And my people understand that greatness is comes from that. Everybody I have they won't want to quit. Because they know that they've been prepared so well. One, because the training is oftentimes worse than the actual competition. Yeah. And you have
adrenaline with the competition.
And knowing that you've prepared so well. Yeah. Even boosts you up even more. But knowing that how mentally strong that you've prepared yourself, that's the great equalizer. And I think especially for an elite Spartan racer, Joe DeSanta does a very good job of coming up with stuff that is going to just not only physically break you but mentally break you. Just like the course where it got foggy. Now he didn't dial up the weather, but he also knows that there's probably a great likelihood that area is going to get like that. Yeah. And just mentally, you're like, I've been walking for days. It's going to feel like, and he's trying to see who really wants it. Yeah. He's kind of a sick and twisted guy like that. And
I'm listening to his book. It's awesome.
Yeah. And I really appreciate how he goes about that. I mean, he just lives that lifestyle so well. And I think when people can get to that level, they are, from a mental standpoint, there's really nothing that they can't do, whether it be in competition, in sport, in life, in anything. I mean, that's really what your ultimate goal is, or my ultimate goal from my standpoint as a coach, is trying to make somebody that, a very well-rounded person.
Which that's what I want to get into next. We're going to just take a really quick break, but I want to come back and talk about what all of this competition really means in the end. I had, a lot of people, I say too, you sell them what they want and you give them what they need, kind of thing. Because within my fitness program, a lot of people come to me for weight loss, which is an external thing, which, it's internal as well. But a lot of people come to me for a workout program, and I give them kind of the mental pieces to it too. So I love hearing it from the competitive side of things too. So we'll be right back.
Now I'm growing some fuzz, getting older, like 17 or 18, and the only thing I know is to stay clean. T-shirt, short pants.
Welcome back to the Stop Chasing Skinny radio program, where tonight we're talking with Marshall Crown. He is a strength and conditioning coach, and he's sharing all of his tips about the the way that somebody would train for an obstacle course race or anything that requires some performance-based training. And I'm really excited. We're going to get a little bit more into the mental side of things, which is where I love to live anyway. That's all where it comes down to. And so let's go ahead and talk a little bit more about the ultimate goal with doing a competition like this, whether it's an obstacle course race, a marathon, in CrossFit. What is the ultimate goal in competing from your perspective?
Well, I mean, I think the main thing that I like to see is how does that training carry over to your everyday life? I mean, most of the athletes I have quite a few sport-specific athletes as well, and more, what I would call a regular sport, like football or soccer, or, baseball players, stuff like that.
Something on television.
Yeah, something that like most kids like want to grow up and do.
Yeah.
I mean, like most kids aren't like, hey, I want to grow up and be like, an obstacle course racer.
Unless their parents.
Yeah,
do
unless
it,
their
and then
parents
it's
do
cool.
it, and like, but most of them don't know what that is. But most of them know, like, hey, I want to grow up and be like LeBron, or I want to grow up and be like Marshawn Lynch, like I want to be. I see these guys and I want to do that, and everybody I take on, I ask them one simple question. I say, who are you? And 9 times out of 10, they're going to say, I'm a football player, or I'm a soccer player, or I'm this. And I said, no, I said, I don't really care what you do. I said, who are you? Like, what are the other things? I said, when I take that away from you, what makes you who you are?
Oh,
and
that's
it's like
huge.
it's like dead stares half the time.
Yeah.
And I said, because let me tell you, and I speak of this from experience. I played baseball, and we were playing, anywhere from 100, growing up from a little kid from like age 6, to 20, and I played anywhere towards the end of my career. I was playing like 100 games or more a year, sometimes closer to 2. If we were 200, we were getting into fall and some winter stuff.
That's a lot of games.
So the majority of my
life.
life is that. My entire social structure was that. When it ended, I had no idea who I was. I had this huge identity crisis. I had like a midlife crisis at like 20. I was like, what do I do? And I went through a really hard time. I got very depressed with it. I was like, I don't know, I really wasn't able to hang out with my friends all that much because like they're on road trips, and it was like, well, I'm just by myself, and like I didn't have friends outside of that world, and it made me realize like there has to be more to you than just being one-dimensional. What you like, I'm this type of athlete. That works great when that's all you do, but even the guys that play professionally, their training pulls into the station at some point, and then what makes them who they are then. They're not like, I'm a baseball player or I'm a football player or I'm this anymore. No, there has to be something else. So I tell them, like, you need to have other things. I said, you need to be, a great student. You need to be something else. Like, do you have other hobbies or other passions? You need to develop those equally, because the other thing that does is when you have 5 or 6 things that make you who you are, when you're failing in one area, you can draw upon the strength in 5 or 6 other areas. You can't do that if you're just one-dimensional.
Yeah.
And if you're struggling, you're like, man, like my training sucks right now and I'm hating life. It permeates everything else in your life. But if you're like, man, like, training sucks, and I'm still not, like, that's my main focus, but I got straight A's, I'm a great artist on top of it, or whatever they want to be, or
Yeah, that's huge, because I think, before we were talking about a little bit, once that competition is over, and I used to see it all the time with fitness competitions. I went through it myself. I even see it with brides that get married. Once that event is over, and then it's like, well, now what?
Yep.
So how do you help your clients, or what advice do you have for people who are finishing up an event like that? Because you have to have recovery, you need some downtime, but how do you keep their head in the game, or what are some of the things that you recommend that people do to stay healthy mentally once that event has been completed and that goal has been achieved?
And most of my most of my people are extremely motivated to succeed in what they want to succeed in.
Mm-hmm.
So I deprive them of it. We'll train extremely hard to the point where their body, they're just in a ton of pain. They don't want to do it anymore. They're tired of training. Then you give them the competition. It's their release, their break. They can just go after it, let out all that pent-up frustration on that event.
Yeah.
And then I don't let them train for the next 10 days.
Interesting.
I won't let them do anything.
Okay.
Like they won't get any programming. I don't care what they eat. They won't do anything. They're going to just do nothing. And typically at the end of about a week, they're itching to get back in there. They're hungry again. They're like, all right, I need something. It's like you can't describe the look on their face. They're just like, all right, I'm done on vacation. I'm done with it.
Yeah.
All right, like, let's get back to work. And then, about the 10th day, we'll talk about what they want to set their sights on next. And sometimes we tweak it a little bit. Sometimes, maybe we're going to, change a weight class for an athlete, or sometimes maybe we got a new thing that we're going to switch to. Maybe we got a guy that decided, hey, like I'd rather play on defense now or something like that, and I need to pack on a little bit of weight, more than I was carrying before.
Mm-hmm.
Gives us a new goal to set, gives us a new direction to go, keeps it fresh, but he always is driving them in a direction of greatness, and that's what I'm always trying to do. I want everybody to know that anybody that is covered under my brand, that they're going to get a complete person, one inside and out.
Yeah.
That they're going to be somebody that is physically, just lights out, that they've been training that hard, but that is just a solid and human being to be around. And that I think is, my grandfather always talked to me and told me about leaving legacies, and he built custom homes, and, he said, we could drive around everywhere and be like, I built all these homes. And it got me thinking when I was really decided, this is my passion, this is what I love to do because I love affecting people. I said, that's the legacy that I want to live and lead, or leave behind when I go, is that, what if, it'd be fine if I was like, I put 100 pounds on that guy's back squat, or I helped, this woman lose 30 pounds and it's just a number. But what are they going to do after that?
Yeah.
Does that guy go out then and just, that's the end of his story? Or does he go out and I've helped boost him up in so many other ways that he impacts 10 other people, and those 10 people go out and impact 10 more people each?
That's awesome.
That's the reach that we're trying to get with my company at Defiance. That's what we're all about building. And I'm very selective of who I bring in because I'm protective of my brand, but two, not everybody wants that.
Yeah.
And not everybody buys into that. And I only want people that are going to do that. So
that's awesome. That's incredible. And that's what a real coach is. A real coach doesn't just give you a couple tools. They coach you. They coach you to be better. And it's so awesome. And the timing is perfect for this part too, because I just finished spending the week with some guys that I know from wrestling. Yep. And I actually do a little bit of coaching for them for their nutrition and their conditioning piece. But I spent time with Floyd Winter, which was an Olympic coach, and he's retiring now. And so there were a lot of Olympians. One guy, Derek Waldrop, he won the 96 gold medal in wrestling at the Olympics. He came to see Floyd off, and Randy Couture was there because he wrestled under Floyd back in the 80s for the military's wrestling team. So it was really cool to hear them say that. That's what they came back for. They came back to say, thank you for making me a great person. So that's awesome that you are really a coach, not just a trainer. I mean, anybody can be a trainer and give you some tips here and there, but you really get in the trenches with them, and people come out stronger.
And I think for anybody to be successful, you have to. If they have a goal, you have to take ownership of that goal. You can't just be like, they tell you, hey, I want to do this. Okay, yeah, that's fine, and just haphazardly give them something. You have to believe that as much as they do, if not more, because when they're training and they want to quit, you got to know that you got to be able to convey that, hey, I want this for you just as much. And when they see that passion, then they come in behind it, and then it fills that void. And it's like, okay, I can get through this. I'm going to get one more day. I'm going to keep going. I can do it. Yeah. You know, I mean, you know, too many people want to give up.
Yeah.
They do. And it's like the hardest thing that you have to overcome is figuring out what your calling is and who you want to be.
Yeah.
Once you figured that out, you're on the downhill slide of things. Yeah. You don't, you know, like, you know, and impossible is nothing more than a word used by weak people. That is it.
Ooh, I like that. Oh, that's good. That's really good.
You know, I mean, like, I mean, and you know, I mean, I have a girl that, you know, I train her, and I mean, she gets, you know, to hear this stuff all the time. But I'm super passionate about, like, when I get in there, I'm always, I don't know, I get really passionate. I'm doing my best tonight not to get like too out of control. I get a little heated sometimes. But,
I love it. I love passion, and yeah, it's that's what makes everything great, right? Like, who wants the vanilla stuff? Who wants that, like, bland whatever? I
mean, you got to understand, like, average is, like, you know, Eric Thomas says it great. Average is the imposter of great, because it'll make you think that you're doing things well, and because everybody else is. Yeah. You know, he was like, you know, phenomenal. He said, to be phenomenal, you just are phenomenal. Don't listen to anybody else. Just do it. And that's the hardest thing, is just people getting up and doing it. You know, and if you're going to listen to, you know, and somebody has goals, then you got to believe that goal. You got to help them get to it. Yeah. Then that's, you know, that's what you do. And you don't let the outside voices come in and tell them, hey, that's impossible. No, you're just weak-minded, like, because you don't have the vision to see like they do.
Yeah, yeah.
You know?
Oh, that is really powerful. I say that too to a lot of people, because I do deal with I deal in transformations, really.
Yeah.
So I do. My clients are general population of somebody who is trying to do a lifestyle change, and they come to me, and I feel like the mental piece of it, the really big challenge for them is having the support from the people around them, because other people are really scared of change. Like, just as humans, a lot of people, I thrive on change. I really love it, but a lot of people don't like change, and they don't like it when you change either. And so they'll try really hard to keep you, and I hate to say, like, they try to keep you down, but they try to keep you down, because you are reflecting to them that they're not necessarily living up to their potential. So that is really huge, and that's awesome that you add that mental component to it, because that self-doubt that kind of creeps in when your loved ones are like, nah, I don't know about that. That's really powerful. And it's insidious.
And I mean, I'm a walking example of it. I live it just as hard, you know, as I preach it to these, you know, to my people. Like, you know, it's going to be lonely up there, but, you know, because you just like you said, you know, it's uncomfortable when you want to be average and you're around somebody that wants to be great.
Yeah.
It's an uncomfortable feeling. But that person that's going to be great, if they understand, hey, you're going to start to shed these people every now and then. But when you get to where you want to be, you're going to attract people just like you that want to be around you, that want to build you up, that want to make you better, and in all facets of your life. And those are people that you always want to surround yourself with. Yeah. So why not be one of those people and attract them? You know, like...
Yeah. Oh, that's so powerful. That's great. And I was just thinking about that the other day as far as putting stuff out there, because, I mean, obviously I have an online business. My marketing is done via social media. And, you know, I do try to be inspirational. I try to put stuff out there. And I have gotten feedback where, you know, people are like, oh, Stephanie thinks that she's better than. No, actually, I don't think I'm better than anybody. That's just how I believe. And those are the people that I want to attract. And whenever you put that message out there, the right people do come into your life, and then they do support you. And the people that don't, you know, you find yourself making less and less time for them.
Well, and I don't even really worry about them. I don't even matter. They don't matter to me.
Yeah.
Because they won't be around long, you know. And if your whole goal is to better yourself so that you can go out and have a lasting impact in everything that you do and impact people positively, then, you know, why concern yourself with the, you know, the opinions of people that don't want you there? I mean, like that. So to me, like, you know, I just kind of block all that out and just keep on getting it.
Yeah.
Like that's just my attitude. So.
No, I think that's great. I really do. I read, I can't remember where it was. It was probably in my hours and hours of commuting that I used to do, and I listened to it. But they said something about soaring with the eagles instead of spending your time pecking at the ground with the chickens. And really, I think about that whenever somebody is, and I try to share that with my clients too and my fans. If somebody else is pecking at the ground and they're trying to get you to peck there with them, like just soar with the eagles because you have bigger fish to fry, better things to do with your times.
Yeah.
That is huge. I really didn't realize we were going to get into this piece of it. This is great. So we're just going to take a really quick break, and we'll be back for our last 10 minutes.
Now I'm 23 and I remember the times when we was chilling like villains and didn't have no nines. Like when we used to mob the beaches to kick in and swim. Now I hang around and watch the tides come in.
It's not phony. You see no love before my closest homies. Would've paid you no mind, but baby, you was all up on me.
Welcome back to the Stop Chasing Skinny radio program, where I think the name of the program is perfect for this particular segment. I used to chase skinny by doing tons and tons and tons of cardio, and I tried dieting, and it didn't really matter. I would cut down on my food. I would increase on my my mileage, sometimes up to 40 miles a week, and still didn't look or feel the way I wanted to. So then I dove deeper into fitness and painting my fit life. And so that's what I'm trying to do here with this program, is to bring in some other people who have helped me in my journey, who can help you in your journey. So I've been interviewing different coaches, different experts. And tonight we have Marshall Crown. He is a strength and conditioning expert and coach, and owns Defiance, which is his coaching outfit. So I want him to share a little bit more about some of the different coaching options that he gives, where you can work with him, how you can work with him, who can work with him.
Yeah. So you can find me online. I do online remote coaching. Is one of my options. We do some group-based stuff. We'll be having 3 different rollouts, or 3 different program rollouts. We just have a basic strength program. We'll have an obstacle course racing program. And then I have a little bit more driven towards like CrossFit style competitor style programming on there as well. There are just 3 group programs that we'll be running. Groups are limited in size. And it's just so that I can maintain, audience with everybody and make sure I can get questions answered and, address everybody's needs. So we'll be having those roll out in 2 weeks.
Awesome.
So
probably by the time this is airing. So
yeah,
you can find all of that on your website too. Huh?
Yep. Everything, probably by the time this is airing, everything should be on will be up on the site. We'll be live. We'll have... Once we get to our number, we're going to close that group. So it's going to go pretty quick. I've already had a lot of contact about it.
Oh, that's great.
So we're looking to fill those fairly fast. I do individual clients as well. Those are a little bit more selective because of who I like to work with.
Yeah.
As far as sports that I work with, I don't really shy away from anything. Having a sport specific background and just understanding the energy systems of different sports and stuff like that. I am partial to working with overhead athletes, so baseball players, volleyball players, soccer goalies, anybody's throwing or, only because I have a background in that, and I just kind of like working with those type of athletes. But that doesn't mean I don't work with anybody else. I do have one girl that she's a strong woman competitor. So we do a lot. There's not much that we don't touch on. She's done very well. She's actually competed, and she came in 3rd for the state of South Carolina. So
that's great.
Yeah, so she's done very well. She's going to be trying to make a run at the Arnold's this upcoming year.
Awesome.
So we'll see how that works out. I think that she actually has a very good chance of that. So we do a lot of strength work. I also run an Olympic weightlifting team.
Okay.
Team Defiance. We're based out of a gym in Charleston, South Carolina, downtown, called Big Work Fitness Factory.
Okay.
We will be hosting a meet in April of next year. This will be an open meet sanctioned with USAW. But we also have a couple slots still open we'll be competing in January. It'll be the middle of January 16th through the 18th at the American Weightlifting Federation's Grand Open. It'll be in Vegas. So
great.
It'll be 300 lifters. Some of the top lifters in the country will be there lifting at that event. Guys like Kendrick Ferris, John North, some other guys will be there. Really cool event. It's going to be a lot of fun. So we are taking some slots for that, both women and men.
Okay.
I do work with a lot of female athletes.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that's just because I'm so deep sometimes, or like psychological. I don't know,
Right.
but
No,
like
that's
I
great.
deal with I tend to handle female athletes very well.
That's awesome.
And so I find that they work a lot harder most of the time than a lot of my guy athletes.
I like
So
that.
but yeah, I don't really shy away from too many different sports. But
Yeah.
my main focus is strength.
Yeah.
Strength sports, and so
Yeah.
you guys can you can definitely find me here. I'm based out of Charleston, but you can find me online at defiancesc.com,
Okay.
and then on Instagram at defiancesc, and you can find me on Facebook at Defiant Strength Conditioning.
Awesome.
So-
We'll put all those links in the show notes too. And then something else that kind of pops into my head, and because I've been asked about this a couple times, I've worked with the local basketball players a little bit,
Yeah.
just to meet up with them outside of school. A lot of high school athletes,
Yeah.
a lot of their coaching programs, they just struggle. So I've talked to them a couple times, and then also. My assistant, she's actually in Canada. She's a virtual assistant. Her son does track and field, but they don't have an off-season program for the high school track and field. So is that something that you also coach, that you could give programs to, that even if they're not in person, you could give
Yes.
them some off-season work to do?
Yeah, and typically what I've designed, I design in-season and off-season programs for just about all my athletes that I have, and I have sport-specific guys. So typically the way that would work, taking on a remote client like that, we'll do we would meet once a month for like an hour Skype session.
Okay.
So this way I handle all my remote clients.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then we'll talk through via email, or if we're getting ready for a competition, something like that. It tends to be where we'll talk by text, or phone call, every day, multiple times a day.
Okay.
Sometimes
Okay.
depends on how into it my athlete might be.
Yeah.
So it gets a little demanding, but it's a lot of fun. But we'll do some basic assessment work that they can do remotely. Send me the results from that. Kind of gives me an idea where they stand on certain things, and then we'll develop ways to improve whatever they may be sport specifically.
Okay.
So if they're track and field and they're saying a thrower,
Yep.
Obviously I'm going to train a thrower much different than I would, somebody,
Sprinter.
sprinter, or somebody that's going to be, running, an 800 or something like
Yeah.
that, So, I don't really discriminate against any athlete that wants to train.
Okay.
My biggest thing is the only thing that I ever require out of anybody that I take on is 100% commitment. So,
Okay.
if I'm if I take on remote clients, I'm expecting them to really be motivated to do things.
Yeah.
If I'm taking on individual clients and they're constantly coming up with excuses, here locally that they can't make this and they can't make that, then if you're more worried about wanting to go and hang out at the movies than train, then that's fine. I don't mind that, but I'm not going to waste your money and my time doing that. I don't feel like that's worth it for you to be spending money on something you wouldn't do. So,
Yeah. I like that. I like that a lot.
yeah, I just demand I demand a lot because I give a lot. It's long days dealing with this stuff, and I love it every minute of it. And it makes my days go by really short, and they're really easy when I'm around people that are just want to get after it constantly. And so that's the biggest thing. I just demand that, and to have an open mind, because we do a lot of kind of obscure stuff, and you might be like, why am I doing this? But I think I have enough people that can tell you like it'll work, and it'll kind of give you a whole different level of understanding on yourself, and just kind of give you an edge on whatever competition that you're going after.
Yeah, that's great. I love your holistic approach to all the coaching, and really looking for your you're performance based, you're performance driven, so you're looking for those results, but it's all of the areas that your life benefits from these competitions.
I think the biggest thing is even though it's performance driven, I tell people you got to fall in love with the process.
Yeah,
that's the number one thing. I have taken done a couple people that wanted to do weight loss, and they're like, I got this number, I gotta get to this number. I'm like, well, what happens when you hit that number?
Yeah.
I don't know. Well, no, I want you to start finding things that you want to get good at, and we'll naturally get to that number, but not everybody can have the image that they're looking for, you know, and what I want people to do is just fall in love with the process, and everything that they really want is the doors will open that they didn't even know were even there, and they're going to find so much more out, more about themselves. And I think that's just huge. I think most people don't realize that. You know, I think they focus too much on either pure performance or just pure aesthetics, and they don't realize that they're mutually exclusive if you just fall in love with the process.
Yeah. It's so true. Once you fall in love with the process, and then you don't have to rely on willpower or any of that stuff. It's just part of it. So that's really great. And that it's easier that way. It just is. I mean, it's harder and easier.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. So.
Yeah. But thank you so much for joining us, and thank you for sharing your expertise. And
had a wonderful time. I
good.
really appreciate the opportunity to come out and talk with you today. And
I feel so lucky that you live here in Charleston. I live here in Charleston. So, yeah, thank you so much. And like I said, you can find all of Marshall's contact information, his coaching options in the show notes. And we look forward to next week whenever you listen to us on Tuesday nights from 9 to 10 p.m. on KineticHiFi.com. This is the Stop Chasing Skinny radio program with Stephanie Keenan. Thanks.
I woke up one day in Vacaville, round the corner from the pen fat house on the hill. All the homies in the pen straight locked down, but I gotta get dressed and hit the Oak Town.